Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. We are live, and along for a little bit until everybody starts to log on because that's how it seems to be. But anyway, um, before I begin anything at all, first of all, I'd like to say good morning to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who is standing to my right side as always. I'd like to say good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Rosemary.
You just told me where you were. Can you tell everybody else? Because I've got where you are. Wait a minute. Let me think. No, it's gone. Where are you?
I'm in Maryland.
Maryland. That's right. That's right. Okay. So, oh gosh. So, right. So, I know you said it was 37 degrees or something.
Yes,
Cold then, right? Cold,
it's
cold,
definitely cold.
chilly, chilly
Biting
cold.
cold.
Yeah. My daughter is experiencing a similar thing. I don't know what the temperature is in New York, but she says, "Oh my goodness, it is cold, Mum. It really is cold here." But in New York, and I don't know, I know a lot of the country experienced even into November, they were experiencing temperatures of 70, 78 degrees, uh, and then all of a sudden overnight they went from 78 degrees to now suddenly it's 50 something degrees and then it's 30 something degrees. It is cold. Now you're all going to laugh at me when I say this, especially those of you who are in colder climates. It is cold, really, really chilly here in Florida. um, not as cold as most places, but nevertheless it's only 60 degrees and it's got a sort of this sharp bite to it. It's chilly. It's got we've got the winds blowing. You definitely. I'm wearing sort of cropped pants, and you definitely need long pants. And I might even put a sweater on in a little bit because it is chilly. But I'm going to open the windows because we've got this fantastic breeze coming through, and it's nice and cool. I think it's going to get to a high of 70 degrees, which for Florida is it's quite cold. We don't usually get that colder weather until maybe we have maybe have 3 or 4 days in February where it gets a bit chilly. But that's about. I mean, I can count on the fingers of one hand and probably have three fingers left over the amount of time we have to put the heat on, and we only put the heat on for maybe a couple of hours or something just to take the chill off. And so anyway, so it's nice and cool here, but I want it to warm up. I'm sorry, I don't like the cold weather. Not used to the cold weather. So, Chris, we've nattered on long enough. Do we? Is there anybody there?
Yes, people are still logging on.
Okay.
I also wanted to mention that there's a huge storm coming in off the Great Lakes in the United States where they're going to get about 2 feet of snow dumped on them anywhere near the Great Lakes. So we should be thinking about those folks too.
The Great Lakes. We're talking about Chicago and
Yeah, Minnesota.
all
I
around
mean,
that.
I would suspect even north of the Canada side, they're going to get it. So.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Or well, we are. We will think of you. Hot chocolate is what you need. Get lots of chocolate in. Hot chocolate made with milk, not made with water. You've got to have. You're going to have hot chocolate. Have it made with milk, or even perhaps even a dab of cream in there. That sounds good. And get yourself some nice, delicious soups. And in fact, if you know it's coming, there are so many great root vegetables uh, right now because it's the time of year for root vegetables. So you could make the most delicious butternut squash soup. If you want any recipes, let me know because I can give you one or two. Mushroom soup, nice creamy mushroom soup. Oh, potato soup is one of my favorites, of course. All of these things are extremely fattening. My most favorite winter soup of all is, of course, ham and pea, made my way. Uh, any recipes you want, let me know. We can send them out to you. All right. So there is something nice to be said. I have to say, there's something nice to be said by for sitting by a nice roaring fire with a great big bowl of ham and pea soup made by me. Ham and pea soup, nice and rich. I like my soup so thick you can almost, but not quite, stand your spoon in it, because then it sort of just has this wonderful rich flavour. Maybe some nice fresh homemade crusty bread. Are your mouths watering right now? And then of course, bedtime, or even in the morning, or whenever you like, hot chocolate. There's also something to be said for a hot toddy. And I find that lots of people have different recipes for hot toddies, but I love my recipe for hot toddy. And there's something to be said when it's cold outside and the wind's howling around you, and you look out and there's snow going around. There's something to be said for sitting by that cozy fire and sort of really indulging yourself in all of these things. I mean, I'm already wishing that I had a nice fire, and I'm still going to make some soup. I think I know one or two people around who are having for Thanksgiving. They're having a ham. My friend Mary Lou is definitely going to have a ham, so I will steal from her. She actually gives it to me willingly, to be honest. I shall steal from her the ham bone and all of the ham around it, and then I'll make my delicious, fabulous, hearty, delicious ham and pea soup. I can't wait to do that. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. Right. All right. So, Chris, I know people are logging on. I've just mentioned Thanksgiving, and so Thanksgiving is for, and there are a lot of people who are not Americans who watch our show. There are a lot of people who don't celebrate Thanksgiving. But the American Thanksgiving, I know, is coming up, and it is coming up a week today, so next Thursday. Are we going to have a Thanksgiving show? Yes, I think so, because, well, Chris, you do celebrate Thanksgiving, but we'll do the show anyway, right? In the morning, we'll do the Thanksgiving show. So while you are making your turkey, roasting your vegetables, making your hearty soups, or whatever it is you're going to be doing next Thanksgiving morning, um, you can set up your computers or your iPads or whatever it is, set them up in the kitchen, and I might give you a couple of recipes that you might like to try on Thanksgiving morning for your Thanksgiving dinner, or any time really at all. Um, so let's see. So we'll be doing that. Um, and I know that in Canada they celebrate. They have a Thanksgiving in October, I think it is. But now I was talking to a Canadian friend of mine who tells me that uh, the Thanksgiving that they have in Canada is very different than Thanksgiving that we have here in the States. And it reminded me, of course, of um, because I was talking to my friend Karen, and I was saying it sounds much your Thanksgiving sounds much more like our British celebration that we have, because we always have the Harvest Festival, which is usually mid to late September. It might go into October, it depends, but we always have a Harvest Festival. And in the church that I belong to, I'm going back many years now, what we used to do is people would bring canned foods, or sometimes they would bring root vegetables, what have you, to the church, where we'd all box them together, and we would, anyone in the community, in our community that we knew of, and people could propose people that would, to receive this gift of all of these groceries that we would have, and then we would take them around, knock on someone's door, and leave the box on the doorstep, or sometimes the door would open, and we'd see these smiling faces of the old age pensioners as they receive their Harvest Festival gifts. And so we always gave thanks. And in England, it's a very standard thing that we do. We always have our harvest festival, as we call it, celebrating the harvest. Of course, usually there are lots of loaves of bread on display. The bakeries all do their fabulous big bread, with it's in the shape of a wheat sheaf or what have you. They always have things like that, and it is certainly a time to thank God, to thank Mother Nature, to thank all that we have for all of the stuff that is given to us from this earth of ours. Now, just know that not to upset the farmers. I know that you have to work hard and plant the veggies and do all of that stuff. And so when I say it's given to us, what I mean is we're given the opportunity to grow all of these things. And so also I'd like to, at this time of year, do a big shout out to all the farmers who, despite, and it's not an easy job, farming is a rotten job because they have to be out in all weathers and there's never a day they can take off and so on and so forth. So I'd like to thank all of those farmers out there who work for our benefit as well. Okay. Right, Chris, let's go to the chat room. Who do we have? What's going on there?
Well, everybody initially started talking about food since you brought up your ham and pea soup.
Yeah.
So they were saying how they love ham and pea soup, and some are making chili, and some are decorating already for Christmas by the fire.
Oh, nice.
So they're adding on. Andrew's starting with the first question. If you're ready to take
Go
questions.
for it. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so he's saying in his eclectic choice on spiritual books, the content of some might be considered I can't even say it, apocryphal. The last one had a source of credibility with a foreword by Arthur Conan Doyle. There was a mention of number 179. I thought it was a print error, but my friend says 179 is an angel number, sort of like the codes police use, for instance. Are these numbers just a categorization, or is there any use to them?
I think they I don't want to speak for Arthur Conan Doyle because he was an amazing guy. Why would I speak? I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I do believe that they are more to categorize, so a categorization rather than a number that we should be aware of, and so on and so forth. So I think, I mean, I've read. Well, I've been to the Arthur Conan Doyle Centre. I've spoken at the Arthur Conan Doyle Centre. We had a great time. I've been a couple of times there. We had great times there. I was fortunate enough to be taken by the whoever it is. I was going to say the proctor, whoever it is who takes care of all those amazing. There's so many handwritten notes and so many handwritten things, and so much of Arthur Conan Doyle's stuff that is still around. And just I was fortunate enough to be allowed to look at some of them and even to touch some of them. Don't tell anybody. Don't say anything about it because nobody's supposed to know that. But anyway, an amazing healer, an absolutely amazing healer. So I would certainly read what he has to say, and I would certainly not dismiss anything that he has to say.
Okay, then the Queen of Shades says, my brother committed suicide, and I want to know, does he hear me, and what happened?
Oh, well, if you want to know what happened, then I think the thing you need to do is to book an appointment, find a good medium, book an appointment, and just make sure it's someone who's good. Make sure, darling, that it's someone who is real and who is able to really connect with your brother. I can definitely say, I'm sure, and that Greg has his hand on my shoulders. I'm saying this to you, so I know that this is right. I am sure that he hears you. I'm sure that he's fine. I think that what happened is too complex and too complicated to go into on a show like this, and we've got so many people here who are wanting questions. But if I'm hoping this helps you, yes, of course he hears you. But I've also to say to you, this is from Gregel, and he's laughing. So I suspect that this might be something that's from your brother, or maybe they know how you're communicating and how you talk to your brother, you lovely queen of whatever it is you are. Um, uh, when we talk to those in the spirit world, it's really important, first of all, if we're asking questions, to be very concise and to try to give questions that have a yes or a no answer, because otherwise you might get confused with what you're hearing and not quite understand or misinterpret what's being said. But the reason that I'm smiling about this, my darling, is because if you're going to talk to your brother, and of course you should, then could you at least, my sweetheart, give him the chance to reply to you? You can't just keep talking and then talking and then talking. If you're asking him something, if you're talking to him, just then you've got to be quiet. You've got to stop talking and you've got to listen. You've got to pay attention. You've got to, sort of put yourself in that situation where you're more able to hear and more aware of what is being said. You've got to give him a chance to talk back to you. So it's a question of and so many people do this. So you're not wrong for doing this because it's the thing that we do. We tend to talk at those in the spirit world rather than to them. If you, we've all had that occasion, right, where we've been somewhere and we've been, maybe we've been in a group or we've sort of been invited to a coffee morning or something, and there's one person who sort of just incessantly talks, and they talk at you. They're not really interested in what you have to say. They're not really interested in your opinion. They don't want to hear. They just want to. They just like to hear themselves talk. When we talk to the spirit world, it's a little bit like that. We don't mean it. We don't mean to do it, but we forget to shut up and listen and wait to see what is being said back to us. So, my sweetie, yes, of course he hears you. Of course he does. But give him a chance to reply, will you? Okay, Chris.
This is from Cheryl. Dumb question, maybe, but do they play games on the other side?
Well, Cheryl, there is no such thing as a dumb question. I'm thinking now. I don't want to be thinking, is there? No, there really isn't such a thing as a dumb question. If you have a question, it's not a dumb question. It's because you're curious, and that's a good thing. Do they play games? Well, where were you, Cheryl, on Halloween? Because we experienced those in the spirit world playing games with us all the time. I'm assuming that you mean, do they tease us? Do they uh, put things in front of us for us to see, or do they steal something or move something that they shouldn't be doing? I'm assuming by playing games, you might mean that. So, of course, they do that all the time. And as I said, if anyone wants to watch the Halloween show, you can find it on YouTube. And, it's obvious that they're playing games. We had big, hairy, crawly spiders all across the living room. We had Chrissy's husband shaking a skeleton in my face, thinking that was a fun thing to do. Do they play games, as in do they play board games? That one I'm not so sure of. I mean, I'm really not so sure. But yes, of course they play games and they have fun. And yes, and if you're listening very carefully, or if you're able to see what they're up to, you can have fun with them too.
All right, next is from Barb. Good
Bye
morning. Wanted to share this with you.
bye. Okay.
3 years ago, I lost my little schnauzer, and she often came to visit me. I wouldn't see her, but I would feel her jump on the bed and lay down, and several times I would hear her barking in the night. However, I did get another little one, and many times she would get up in the morning and run around the bedroom just sniffing. She always comes into my bedroom in the morning when I get ready for the day. The other morning, I saw her leave the bedroom, and I went to see what she was doing. I was completely surprised as I turned away from the door, and she was still in the room. Wow.
Lovely. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us, Barb. I love that story. Yes. Okay, keep going, Chris.
From Andrew. Assuming we are all here on this earth plane to learn, let's extrapolate to the future when we are all enlightened. What then? What do we do? Without sounding too flippant, do we stand around patting each other on the back? Or do we go off to some sort of commonwealth corner in the universe and govern it?
Okay, well, first of all, no matter how much we learn and no matter how much we grow, and let's say we have the number one student, right, on this earth who has learned and grown and is number one and is absolutely spectacular and so on and so forth. I mean, what we learn here on this earth is not even a thumbnail of what there is to learn. And we're talking about not just the universe, we're not just talking about this earth, we're not just talking about the soul, we're not just talking about the expression of the soul and understanding somewhat how it all works. Um, Whatever we learn here, we go, we're, let's say we're in, not even if we're in nursery school, we're in kindergarten. We're just babies here. So whatever it is that we're learning, and however much we think we know, uh, when we take that next step, then I guess we go to from kindergarten, from out of kindergarten into nursery school, and we stay there for, and so on and so on. There is so much to learn, Andrew. Uh, you got you got so much to learn. I've got so much to learn. There's always, and also it's funny because, and people have heard me say this very often. No matter how much you think you know, there's always more to learn. And even sometimes when you're doing the same exercises, or when you're doing this, you're in the same situation, even when you're listening to the same story, there's always something more to learn from that story. You know, when we do story time and I tell stories, and some people have heard the stories before, but if you listen really carefully to the story, even though you've heard it before, you hear it differently. And there's always more to learn. So I don't think we should worry about what happens once we've learned all that there is to know, because I'm not really sure. Not even a lifetime on this earth has taught me um, more than a little tiny thumbnail of what there is to learn out there.
All right. Sarita's on from Wales. It's been a while. And how
Hi,
have you been?
Wales. Hi, Serena. Hi, Wales. But it's cold there. Whereabouts in Wales, I want to know. Anyway,
She's
go ahead.
she's saying you're looking as beautiful as
Yeah,
ever.
thanks,
She has
darling.
a question.
Okay.
My uncle's wife died. That's my mother's brother a few months ago. And my mother has been having some things happen around her. Is it my uncle's wife? I'm wondering. Her and ma'am were close.
I'm asking Grey Eagle because I would not know the answer without asking. Thank goodness he's here to help us out, and absolutely got a big resounding yes, of course. But I would suspect, and I'm checking again. I think that it's also more than what is she, your aunt, or I'm not sure what that relationship would be. But anyway, I would think it's more than that one person. I would think it's maybe everybody's joining in. Maybe they think it's time to let themselves be heard, or to be known and to show themselves. Nice, I love it. You have to tell us what kind of things, and tell me, where in Wales are you anyway?
All
And
right.
also, tell me, and also, do you sing? Because, of course, when we talk of Wales, we talk of voices being heard, good, solid sound, beautiful voices. It's all of those, the Welsh mountains and all of that, and the air there. I get my voice from my Welsh ancestors. Yes, sorry, I'm shutting up now. Keep going, Chris.
Loretta says my mom passed away with dementia. I am praying that she is not confused in the afterlife.
Oh, that's a great question. I really love that question, and the answer is, dementia is it's a physical ailment, something that happens with the brain. But I've spoken to many people who have dementia. I've been honored to have been a healer for those sometimes who have dementia. I have a very good friend whose father had dementia. And let me tell you, when you can see further than or beyond the physical, as I do, um, you know and you understand that maybe they do not, uh, perhaps not, are not able to make themselves known to you, or they seem to have lost their memory or the capacity for memory and what have you. But there is something else going on there because they have, in a way, transcended beyond the physical. And when you can see beyond the physical, you see that transcendence happening. So I would say, absolutely, we do not take dementia with us. And in fact, even before we leave this earth, very many people who have dementia, they have already taken themselves off in another way. Chris.
Lorraine's asking, do our loved ones in the spirit world stay together doing things together all the time, or do they have separate missions?
I don't know about missions. They have choices. We all of us have choices. Sometimes people choose to stay together because that's what they want. That's what they choose to do. They want to do things together, either as a family or as a couple or whatever it is. But it just depends on the person. It depends on what each person wants individually out of this incredible life that just keeps going on and on. What do we want from it? What can we learn from it? And each person wants something different, and that's what they get. They get something that is different. So again, it's choices. It's about choices. If you want to stay together with someone and they want the same thing, yes, of course you can stay together. If you choose to sort of go off and do something else or visit something else and then come back and visit your family again, you can do that as well. Um, I would say that the only time there might be an issue is if one person wants to stay with someone and that someone doesn't want to stay with that person. You know how that can be, right? Anyway, and that happens sometimes too. Chris.
Shamantha's asking, can you please ask Gray Eagle to give me career guidance? I am struggling to find a new job.
Um, well, yes, Gregor does have his hand on my shoulder, and okay, I think I've got this right. I think I've got this right. You know that old saying, when somebody commits a crime and the investigators go along and they say, follow the money and you'll find where the criminal is. I'm going to say the opposite to you, Samantha. I think that I think you are worrying more about what you need to do to survive rather than what rather than what you want to do to survive. There's a difference. I think Grail is saying follow your heart and search for what it is that fulfills you within. Um, don't worry so much about, will I be able to pay the bills and so on and so forth. Because once you find out what it is that you truly uh, are meant to do and that for something that fulfills you, then it will work out. You'll be the best at doing what you want to do rather than what you need to do. If that makes sense. Chris.
Rhonda's saying, I always say hi to my dad and I say, I miss you. And then I sit quietly.
Good for you. And then you listen, we hope. Yeah, but you've been listening to me for a while now, Rhonda, so you know to listen, right? And that's a good thing. I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you. Chris.
Mark is saying, I'm so glad to see you. When I retire, I'll have more time to enjoy these Thursdays.
Well, good. Good. Well, you don't have to. You don't necessarily have to enjoy them live. You can always go into YouTube and you can find them and watch them. I know it's not quite the same, Mark, but still, better than nothing at all, right? And I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. Keep going, Chris.
Sarita's responding to your questions. She says, "Thank you so much, my darling. That makes a lot of sense because my grandmother has been prominent recently too, and I live near Aberystwyth,
Aberystwyth.
Aberey,
What? I
A,
think she's saying Aberystwyth. We know.
yeah, there you go. And I do sing. I've been told I have a beautiful voice."
Oh, good, 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 good. Yes, yay. We Welsh do have great voices, don't we? I'm not sure. There must be Welshmen and women who don't sing. There must be. But I don't think I've ever heard a Welshman not be able to sing. And there's something about the Welsh voice. It's so rich, and there's a quality or a tone to it that is really, you can't describe it. You have to hear it rather than describe it. But yes, we are a nation of singers.
All
Chris.
right. Mark says this Sunday, November 20th, will mark my mom's 3rd anniversary in heaven. I have a question for Gray Eagle. We remember our loved ones from how we've known them when they passed. When we see them, will they resemble how we knew them, or will they be in their younger selves?
Good question, Mark. Well, who knew it was 3 years? 3 years has gone by so fast, isn't it? But anyway, well, sometimes when I see people in the spirit world, um, they'll show me a form of themselves which we would recognize. But very often I see them healthy and well, and I think I mentioned this, my patient Marjorie, whenever it was, last week or the week before. I mentioned that Marjorie, when I knew Marjorie, she was very sick. She'd lost all of her hair. She was very seriously jaundiced. Her skin was very yellowed, and when I saw her, when she first emerged into the spirit world, I was there, uh, luckily for her. At first, I did not recognize this woman because she glowed. She had beautiful, shining hair, clear skin. Her eyes were sparkling, and it was hard to recognize her because she looked nothing like the lady that I'd been sitting next to when she was in bed and I was sitting and holding her hand and talking to her. She looked nothing like the person that I had seen. And very often, when we, when we lose someone, especially someone who's been very sick for a long time, we get used to seeing them that way. And then I'll describe someone who maybe looks perhaps a lot different. But rack your brains. Remember what she looked like beforehand. Remember how she was, it's hard sometimes. Though it's like being shown a picture, or it's like being, this is how I looked when I was last on the earth plane, but hey, this is how I look now, which is more often than not completely different. I don't think it's true that, when we, some people think, well, if you die when you're 80, then you go back to being 50 or something. I mean, I'm not sure that that's true at all. And why would it be? Because, you know, it's not about our age or about how beautiful we look. It's about who we are within us. And an 80-year-old can be sparkling and beautiful and wondrous, and a 20-year-old can be quite the opposite, because they have no soul, no inner anything going on. So, youth and beauty. Uh, I don't think, even on this earth of ours, I don't think that youth and beauty necessarily go together. Of course, they do in a way, but sometimes you can look at someone who's older and you look at their eyes sparkle with joy. They have such beauty within them that they just, it totally shines out. I was doing the Larry King show a few years ago, not many, a few years ago. I was doing the Lion show, and there was a very famous actress, Debbie Reynolds. I'm sure some of you will know her. Um, she was really beautiful when she was younger, and she was in the studio and had asked Larry if she could watch me. She knew of me. Um, she didn't know me. We'd never actually met, but anyway, and she would have been in her probably in her 80s, her early to mid 80s at the time. And so she watched me doing my show, and then she asked if she could meet me. So was taken to her dressing room, and of course, I knew who Debbie Reynolds was. I mean, gosh, anybody my age knows who Debbie Reynolds is. It's like a incredibly amazing movie star. And I went in to talk to her. And we sat and we had a really lovely conversation. And at some point, uh, I mean, she was in her 80s, right? She looked beautiful. And at one point, I had to remark to her, I had to say to her, you know, I'm sure you've heard many people say this to you, but I have to tell you, you have the most beautiful and astounding eyes, and the love and the joy and the person that she was inside just glowed from her eyes. And you didn't see her as an 80-some-year-old. You saw her as you just she was just a beautiful woman. And she smiled and she said to me, which is one of the greatest compliments from such a beautiful woman. She said to me, well, may I just say, I've so wanted to say to you, you also have the most beautiful and astounding eyes. So we were kind of, giving each other nice compliments and so on. So youth and beauty do not always go together. Don't think that, don't when we look at people who are older and we see the wisdom that they often have, and we see all of life's trials and tribulations often written across their faces. But then you look at their eyes and you see true beauty. And lines and scars, people think that scars are ugly. I could show you really, if I was to get undressed now, I could show you really ugly, ugly scar. I've got two big, big fat scars running close together all the way from my front to my back and up high into my back. Ugly, ugly, ugly. But they're beautiful, these scars, because they're my scars. They show who I am and where I've been. And I think we can look at people with scars, and often we see scars on someone, perhaps on their face or somewhere. I'm lucky with mine, I can hide them, I guess. But so we have emotional scars and we have physical scars. But the physical scars that people are perhaps ashamed of or humiliated by or wish that they could be taken away and so on, we shouldn't be thinking that way. We should look at these scars as, this is these are the scars of warriors. We are warriors, and this is what we have to do. And they're beautiful in their own way. They are beautiful, and I think Hollywood. Talking of Debbie Reynolds, I think Hollywood is so responsible. And then you get all these beauty magazines, and everybody has to look the same. And this is not in fashion this year. I'm never bothered with fashion, but my fashion is my own. I dress the way I want to dress. I don't dress to be fashionable. But I wish that we would take more interest in the scars and the blemishes that everybody has them. You can cover them up with makeup if you like, but these are scars that we have, and we should own them. We should be proud of them, and we should see them as these are my battle scars, and I'm proud to have them, and I'm proud to own them. You can't see now. Just thinking on my forehead right here, there's like a white mark. You've really got to look to see it. But my sister, when she was about 2.5, threw an open tin can, with the lid open. She threw it at my head, and I still retain this scar to this day. She was 2.5. I would be 3.5 or something like that. To this day, I bear that scar, and I don't even see it anymore, except occasionally. But it's it's the scar, it's the mark of a warrior. I did not die. I mean, it could have hit my eye, right? We should be looking at beauty in a different way. And when I look at people and I see, when I looked at Debbie Reynolds and I saw, I mean, she really had most beautiful eyes, beautiful, beautiful eyes. But it was what shone through them that was truly beautiful, and that's what we should be thinking about. Chris.
Shamantha saying, me and my wife are planning to have a child, but we are encountering some problems. We are taking medical aid and consulting doctors. Is there
Right.
any advice from the spirit world or Gray Eagle for us?
Um, well, uh, yes. Now, how am I going to put this? I'm trying to put it delicately. Um, I think that you should uh, focus on um, relaxation. You should focus on um, what is going on within you. You should focus on bringing light and joy to your soul. The medical profession is amazing. Don't misunderstand me. I would not have my grandson if it were not for the medical profession, and I would not have my daughter if it were not for the medical profession. The fact that some of us, we do jump through hoops in order to become pregnant, in order to have our children, and so on. It seems that you are a couple who are having, unfortunately, going to have to go through hoops. But listen to listen to your doctors. Listen to what they suggest to you, and so on. By all means, but don't forget that in order to be able to do the things that you're going to need to do, your soul needs to be in a joyful place. You need to feed your soul. It's not enough to feed your physical body. You need to feed your soul as well. And feeding your soul means that you are lighter, brighter, more beautiful within, and more able to accept the gift which I do feel is coming to you. So I think that all of that, or all of the trauma and the difficulties, are going to be worth it in the end.
All right,
Chris.
now we're back to Welsh voices. Vera is saying Tom Jones had that good Welsh voice.
Yeah.
And Sierra is saying, yes, you're right. There's a good quality to Welsh singing. Mary Hopkin is a brilliant singer who I love dearly. Do you know her, Rosemary?
I do actually. I do. Um, yes, I do. Yes, it's true. The Welsh voice, it has a resonance. It has a deep quality. That doesn't mean the voice is necessarily deep, but it has. I should say it has a rich, somewhat a rich quality. I think when you hear a Welsh voice, you can tell that it's a Welsh voice. That's, of course, I might be biased. What can I say?
Layla wants to know, will you please help me determine the name of my guides or guide?
Well, in this instance, no, I can't do that for you. Oh gosh. Um, I don't want to repeat myself. You need to go back on previous shows when I've talked about guides, and everybody thinks that they have numerous guides and so on. And a guide is a highly evolved spiritual being. I would look to your family mostly. In your case, definitely your family. I'd look to your family, and don't be afraid to sort of look on your father's side as well as your mother's. But your father's side has a somewhat rich spiritual sense of things. I'm not quite sure even what I'm saying there, but I'm just telling you what I'm getting here from Bradle. But it's going to take more than 2 minutes to figure it all out. Chris.
Violet wants to know, have you seen Debbie Reynolds since she passed? I think she died of a broken heart after the death of her daughter, Carrie Fisher.
I have not seen Debbie Reynolds since she passed, but you never know. Maybe one day. I mean, we had, probably maybe 30 minutes together in that moment. She was due to go on as a guest of Larry King, and I was coming off as a guest. But but just that brief moment with her was very special and very memorable for me. She had she told me about her husband, who in fact was a doctor. I don't think I'm saying anything out of turn here about this, but she told me about her husband, who was a doctor, and how every night he would light a candle by her bedside and do other things as well for her. She spoke of him as if he were um, just the be all and end all. I know that she was passionately in love with him, and I understand that he was passionately in love with her. She shared a few of those things with me, which were amazing, really, and I can only share them now because I know that she would not mind me saying that at all. I've only good things to say about her anyway. Chris.
Violet's added a second follow on. Do famous people who pass pay much attention to their legacies? There was a recent and controversial film on Netflix about Marilyn Monroe, and it was very challenging to watch. Do you think they care about how they are portrayed?
Um, well, we hope that they're beyond that, but well, let's say we just hope that they're beyond caring, because however they are portrayed, we never get the full story, do we? Really? I think that it must have been so hard, and is so hard for people like Marilyn Monroe, who are suddenly thrown into the limelight, and not always necessarily in a good way. Um, will I care if people have bad thoughts about me? Well, do I care? No, not really. No, because see, if I don't care while I'm here, why would I care when I'm not here? When I'm gone? I think that who who have bad opinions are people who perhaps don't know a person. So why would that person really worry? Well, they don't know me, so what do they know? So I'm hoping that she won't care. I'll have to see that movie. I've not seen that movie. Interesting, but I like the question just the same. So keep going.
I recall a story about Elvis Presley that you've shared a couple of times.
Yes.
Did he care? Did you want to share any of that story?
Well, weirdly, every medium under the sun claims to have seen Elvis Presley. I know that. It was a big thing at one time. Everybody and their mother, their brother, their sister, whoever, oh, yeah, we've seen Elvis Presley. So when I say this to you, um, not really caring whether you believe me or not. It just happens that I really did see Elvis Presley. And I was in a, I was in a well, it's the biggest what do you call it, agency, uh, entertainment agency actually in the world, and I was sitting there. We were having a meeting with 3 or 4 agents who worked there, and also my agent. We were all sitting there chatting and so on, and about not at all about Elvis Presley. He was not even in the mix of things. We were talking about different things, and suddenly I see, and it's going to sound ridiculous, I know, but I see Elvis Presley in the room, large as life. I mean, there's no mistaking him because, well, who would mistake Elvis Presley? And sort of, I thought to myself, no, this is not happening. This can't be happening. Why would Elvis Presley suddenly sort of be here in the room with us? And then, of course, And then I was curious, because the reason that I'm as good at what I do as I am is because I'm a very nosy person. So my first question would be, what do you want? Why are you here? What do you want? What are you doing here? And of course, none of the others in the room were even cognizant in any way that I was doing anything. They certainly didn't see me talking to Elvis Presley, because we do it in a whole other way, and they certainly didn't see Elvis Presley in the room. But he was laughing. He was very happy. Uh, Certainly, when he was talking to me, he was very happy, and pointed to one of the guys in the room who I actually had only just met, just maybe 20 minutes or so before. And he pointed to him and he said, "Well, he's a big fan of mine, and I just want him to know that that I know that he bought my whatever it was, super deluxe, fancy, blah blah blah." Gave me the name and everything. My guitar, which was one of his favorite guitars, and he said, and he just bought it at auction. So um, now how to get that over to people, because I know if I say to them, "Can I just stop you all for a minute because I've got Elvis Presley in the room here with us," I mean, they're going to definitely think I'm crazy, right? But pretty much eventually that is what happened, although I did it somewhat of a different way around. I looked at the guy that Elvis was wanting me to talk to, and I said, "Do you mind if I ask you a question?" And he looked at me, no, and I said, "I understand you just bought a blah 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 fancy whatever it was guitar that belonged to Elvis Presley." And he sort of looked at me. I sort of stood back. He said, "Well, how do you know that?" And that was my cue, you see. Uh, I don't know why I'm telling you this story. It's a fun story to tell. Uh, and I was able to say to him, because Elvis is in the room. The standard Elvis is in the room, you know. Um, but I'm British, so I didn't say that. I said, "Well, because I have Elvis Presley standing here next to you, talking to me, telling me that he watched you bidding for it, and you put it in your house, and he even told him where in his house he'd put the guitar and what he'd done with it, and so on and so forth." So there was no doubt in anybody's mind at this point that Elvis was in the room. Uh, but no, he always seemed very happy to me. And I did not tell that story for a long time, because why would I? Because everybody and their mother claims to have seen Elvis, but I really did. Anyway, there we are. And whether you believe it or not really doesn't matter to me. You see, this is the thing. I'm coming back to Violet's question. Um, when you're in the spirit world, are these famous people, are they bothered about what people think of them now? And I guess no, I don't think that they necessarily would be. Let's hope they've got better things to think about than other people's opinion of them. Chris.
This is from Leslie. Hi, Rosemary. Do
I
we live many lives? Is there reincarnation?
We've got some new people in our chat room today.
We do.
Figuring out my opinions on reincarnation are, do I believe that we come down to earth, we live our life, we go back up there, and a bit later we come back down, and then we go back up. I call it the yo-yo syndrome. No, I do not believe that. I do believe, though, that we have choices, and some people do choose to come back here and do this all over again, and other people choose uh, to investigate or to explore the universe and the many universes that are out there. I think it's a human thing that we have. We think that this Earth of ours is perhaps the only place we know of, so therefore. Why wouldn't we come back here and explore a different part of it? And why wouldn't we, indeed? And if people think that they have something to learn, or an advantage of coming back, then I guess they do. But many people choose to do other things and to explore the universe. and the many universes that are out there. Remember, this Earth of ours is comparative to the universe. It's a little tiny speck of a little grain of sand, a little tiny grain of sand compared to the rest of the universe out there. There are many more things that we choose.
All right. Then Rhonda's saying, I love, love, love Elvis. I have an Elvis wall, pictures, posters, and even a life-size cardboard Elvis.
Wow, Rhonda. Woohoo! Well, I don't think I love anyone that much other than my daughter and my grandson. But I'm so pleased that you have that. I mean, because it's got to give you such fun and such joy. Just have you been to Graceland? I got to ask that question. Um, so keep going, Chris.
Sandra says, what a great story. Thanks for sharing. So fun. Violet says, I think your attitude is magical. And hashtag, I don't care.
I love that. Yeah, we have to be careful. I don't care what people say, rather than I don't care, because I care greatly for so many things. Let me see. The top of my list of caring would be my daughter and my grandson. Um, I care about my friends. I care about my patients. I care about all of my groupies here. Can you please be a groupie for me? Because I care about that. Violet, I care for you too. I don't care. We've got to be careful. I don't care about the opinions of people. How can we put it? Violet, you're a genius at this. You've got to put it in a different way, my sweet. So let's do a hashtag. I don't know, whatever. I'll leave it to you. Come back to me with what you would say.
Dean is saying it's snowing for the third day here in Wisconsin. Yay, so pretty.
Dean, while I've got you here, thank you, thank you, thank you for your letter. I haven't replied yet because we've got so many other things going on. If I may, and I'm going to assume that you won't mind, if I may, I would like to tell everyone a little bit about Dean, because Dean and I go way, 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 way back. He was, let's say, at a crisis point in his life when he called. I was in England at the time, and he was in America, and he had a consultation with me, which I think it's true to say changed your life, Dean. Right? I don't know if you want to say anything about that, but changed Dean's life so much for the better, because it. I think the consultation, I think it's fair to say, was able to change the way that you were looking at things. That to appreciate rather than to be angry, to love rather than to, I won't say hate, but dislike. I think it turned around. It helped you to turn around the way you were thinking about things and the way you were looking at the things in your life, and consequently, Dean has sent me a letter every year on the anniversary, usually, of that consultation, which is many, many, many years ago. Some beautiful letters, and always remembering the anniversary of his, let's say, rebirth, joyful rebirth, and being able to look at things in the most joyful way. And so I will get back to you. I will reply to the letter, but thank you, darling, for remembering, because it, so many people remember, but Dean has been actively every year sending me this is the anniversary, here we go again. So I thank you for that, my darling. Chris.
All right, well, you're right at time, Rosemary.
Well, okay. Is there anything else? Any other comments that anybody wants to say?
Violet has responded back with an idea.
Oh, God.
How about this? What other people think of me is none of my business.
I love it. Oh, yes. Is that too long a hashtag, though? Can we God, skim it down. We'll talk. And now you see, I've given you the task. Yeah, exactly. What other people think is not my business at all. And if I make it my business, then I'm going to make myself thoroughly miserable, aren't I? So why would we do that, everybody? So remember, if you live your life worrying and wondering what people think about you, it's less time that you have to make yourself the most beautiful and fabulous person. Don't think about others. Don't get worried about others. Think about you. Think about who you want to be and how you want to be and what you want to be in your life. All right. I think that's anything else. I'm compelled to ask you, is there anything else? Any other comments here?
No, we just hope to see everybody at 11 a.m. on Saturday for story time.
Okay. Yes, so we're going to be doing story time. We will be doing our, I know some of you've been waiting. Our cracking up will be on Friday, the Friday after Thanksgiving, and I'm not sure what date that is, but it will be Friday. Go to the website to take a look and see when we're doing our cracking up with K and RA, cracking up. See? Anyway, and we always have fun doing that. So we're going to be doing that a week tomorrow, not this coming Friday, not tomorrow, but the week after. And we will be doing all sorts of other things. So go to the website, everyone, rosemaryaltea.com. Go to the website and check us out. And you'll see what we're up to. And also, I know many of you wonder, you hear us talking about the newsletter. In order to get our newsletter, it's a monthly newsletter. I promise you, we will not inundate you with stuff, but you will need to sign up. So again, go to the website, and there'll be a little button you press where you just, whatever, what's it called, Chris?
Subscribe.
There you are. When you subscribe, it doesn't cost you anything. And share. Let everybody know. Tell everybody that you know what a fantastic time we have on these shows, because, well, I do anyway, and I'm hoping that you do. Well, you keep coming back, so I'm really, really pleased about that. So please be my groupies. I love my groupies. Thank you, everyone, for sharing this morning with us. Thank you, Chris, for your great facilitating, and especially and particularly, I would like to thank Rayla, who, as always, is standing by my side. I'd like to say thank you to him because he does a fabulous job. And again, thank you to all of you for watching. Please, everybody, have a very, very blessed rest of the day, and have a very blessed weekend, everybody.